Welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite realtor, Dr. Yeti, and I am back with yet another video. Today we're going to be reacting to the Atlanta housing market. Okay, so if you may or may not know this, I am a realtor based in the Atlanta metro area, and so we are on the 3rd of November, and it's ideal for us to go over what happened in the housing market in the past few months and what type of market are we today in the Atlanta metro area. So let's get to it. So if you look on my screen right now, I ran a search. Actually, let me move my face to the other side. I ran a search on what is happening in whoops, let me make this smaller. Okay. In the Atlanta metro area. Now, the first thing I want you to do is ignore this last column, because this last column is focused on November, which we are only 3 days in. So this column is definitely going to be skewed, but we're looking at the last few months in 2025, how the housing market looked. So if you look from January all the way to April, the homes have been sitting on the market for a lot less. So it started off with 84 days on market, which is a pretty long time for homes to be on the market on average. But then the days on market started to go down all the way to April. Now this does look like a seasonal move. It makes sense, right? In the winter time, homes will sit on the market typically longer because people aren't really looking for a house in the winter, right? People aren't really looking for a house in the winter. But towards the fall and summer times, spring and summer seasons, the days in the market, actually, I got that incorrectly. From January, we see that the homes have been sitting on the market for 84 days, which is the highest it's been all year, right? And another thing you have to keep in mind is around January times, the interest rates were really high as well. If I look up interest rates, let me look up what the interest rates are. Interest rates, let me see if I can pull it. Mortgage interest rates today. Okay, we'll see that in January on the Freddie Mac website, January 2025, interest rates were the highest being 7.04%. So homes were sitting on the market for a lot longer. Why? The interest rates were high. Like, no one wants to buy a house at a 7% interest rates, and the house, the prices of the homes were also high as well. And it also makes sense as we were going all the way down to March and April, right? From March to April, it was kind of going sideways. And you can see as the interest rates started going down, so were the days on market, right? And you can see from January all the way to April, homes were sitting on the market a lot less, right? But then we go from May to September, it started picking back up. The days on market started going up. Why is that? We can't really say it's because interest rates have been going down since, let's say, since April. Interest rates has been going down. So what could be the reason why the days on market have been sitting a little bit, we're starting to pick back up? It could be the home prices. It could be, we really can't tell you. I can't tell you why, but I will tell you that the home prices were picking up. I mean, not the home prices, the days on market were picking up so much that I was starting to think that we were doomed. We were going to be experiencing a buyer's market significantly. Well, until we reached October of last month, and we see that last month the days on market went down to 75 from what it was 79 last month. So it's went down. October had the lowest interest rates all year, right? Well, compared to September had 6.26. October had 6.17, the lowest it has been all year, right? So, and right now it's at 6.17. because we are in November 3rd but yeah, 6117 being the lowest, you see interest rates are starting to go down, right? And it started going down really October, yeah. The lowest was in September as well. So you would think that September, I think the homes started selling mid-September, although, and I guess I can't really tell you why, but homes were selling September at a slightly higher days on market than the previous months. The second highest month with the highest days on market was September compared to January, which was the first. So I'm curious to see why October went as low as it did compared to September. It could also be that because people saw the interest rates being so low in September, right? Seeing as interest rate as 6.26, it rose a little bit. It kind of gave people a push to say, hey, it went from 6.26, now it's at 6.34. We might need to hurry up and get back on the market because interest rates may not be as low as it is right now. So maybe that was the push when you saw in October that it was down, September that it was down, and then it pushed up to 6.34 in October. It gave people a reason to say, hey, we need to probably get back on the market. Who knows? But interest rates could be the reason. It could be home prices, and we're going to see that in a little bit. And actually, before I even get into that, let's compare this to the last 3 years. The last 3 years, how was the housing market looking? How many days on the market? Well, we see that 2025, had the highest days on market in the last 3 years. In the last 3 years, Atlanta had the highest days on market this year alone. But you can also see that from January to April, it goes down, it picks back up, but then it just continues to go down. This was 2023. 2024, same thing. January 2024, all the way down to April, it goes down. So it does seem like a thing that it is a habitual thing for the homes to start off on a high note, and then like the days on the market start to go down. So the homes start to sell more over the next 3-4 months since once the year starts, right? So I'm expecting for January 2026 to have a similar situation where the houses sit on the market for longer in January, and the question is it ideal for buyers to get into the market in January then? Right? Is it ideal for buyers to get into the market in January since the house is sitting on the market longer? The sellers may be more determined to sell their house. Okay, and then we also see that it starts to go back up in the summer, spring seasons, right? However, it just keeps going up. It keeps going up. So I'm very curious to see what this month brings in November, especially considering November is a winter season, considering that a lot of people have been getting laid off. A lot of jobs are on shaky grounds, like how the economy is looking. I'm very curious to see what this month brings and what the rest of the year brings. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is inventory. How many homes do we have in the market? Now, inventory is important to understand how many homes we have sitting on the market, how many homes I have entered into the market, right? And typically we want to see inventory of less than 7 months. What does that mean? That basically means that I probably shouldn't include let me customize this. That basically means that you want to see homes. Actually, let me just look at the data instead of looking at the chart. Let's look at the data. Remember what I said, that November being only 3 days, it's going to skew the data. So that basically means that if nothing else changes, if we don't have any new properties added to the market and nothing else changes, how long will it take to sell these properties? The properties are currently sitting on the market today. How long would it take to sell these properties? And we have 7 months of inventories in October. right? We had 7 months of inventory in October. And it's kind of in line with the past few months, right? The past few months, inventory has been between 5 and 7, and the lowest being April, right? But let's compare it to the last 3 months or 3 years. Let's compare it to the last 3 years and see what the numbers look like. But the inventory being 7 months doesn't necessarily change anything. We see that in 2023, the range was between 3 and 5 months. 2024, the range was between 4 and 6 months. And then in 2025, the range was between 5 and 7 months. So it does seem like over time, the inventory has been going up the past few years. But I do still see the market moving. I see sales happening every single day. So I don't know, like the real estate world has changed drastically. But inventory being higher means that it is still a buyer's market. I feel like it's been a buyer's market since last year, but in terms of home prices and interest rate, it wasn't ideal for buyers to get into the market. So I'm very curious. You know, I don't think the inventory really makes much of a change right now, because it's been like this all year. From January onward, it's been 7 months of inventory for four months. And then the other month is 6 months. It's 6 days. It's 6 months of inventory, except for April, which was 5. So I'm curious to see, extremely curious to see, what does this mean? Right, let's see how it's been in the last 5 years. I'm very curious to see. Of course, like 5 years, we have C19. So C19 happened, right? But even C19 season, inventory was low in 2021. That's why it was so cheap, or not cheap. It was so ideal to buy a house. Inventory was low in 2021. Interest rates were also low. Let's look over here. We want to see what interest rates look like in 2021. Okay, 2021 interest rates were extremely low. Lowest being let's see, what's the lowest? Lowest being 2.65. And this is a national average. There were people that got interest rates at 2.5. Okay, depending on their credit score and all that stuff. But this is a national average. So keep in mind, like, homes, it wasn't that much homes, but people were buying because it was ideal time to buy. Homes were cheaper, right? Well, yeah, homes were cheaper. Inventory was low, but so there was a bidding war heading into 2022, right? Think about it. 2022, March and April, there was 1 month of inventory in March and April. 1 month of inventory. Interest rates were relatively low. They weren't like super high. Let's look at it. In 2022, March and April, okay, let's see, March and April, interest rates were starting to go up, but they weren't super high, right? March and April, we're looking at maximum of interest rates 5.11. Okay, maximum 5.11. March lowest was what, 3.76, right? So interest rates were lower, inventory was lower, so people were eager to get into the market. Now a lot of people have overpaid for their homes, so it takes some time for the market to catch up. But I'm very curious to see where 2025, you know, because you see, compared to these other months, these other years, 2025 has the highest inventory. The highest inventory in the past 5 years. Now, these 3 years were very unusual, right? Because of a pandemic that occurred, but we can compare 2023 and 2024, and we can see that 2025 is significantly higher. So I'm curious to see what that means. Honestly, I became a realtor in 2023, which I can't really speak on the history of the real estate market from 10 years ago. Oh, you know, back in the day, interest rate, like, I can't speak on that. I can only speak on what I see on paper, but I can't speak on actual practice. So that's, take it with a grain of salt. Now, the next thing I want us to look at is the median home price. And the reason why I wanted to look at the median home price is to see if the home prices have been changing over time, if it's been going up or if it's been going down. Well, if we look in October, okay, home prices kind of still stayed the same-ish, right? About $10,000 more than the last 2 months, which is not too bad, right? It's when we think about it, home prices started going up. Days on market was going down. Home prices was going up. Inventory was going down from January to April. And you can see it, it's like the home prices were going up, right? But the days on market was going down. Then when we go from May onward, you see the home prices going down. But this month it picked up a little bit. Now I will say this, because I am running the stats myself. Sometimes it takes some time for them to adjust this number. That's why I usually wait to look at these numbers to see, but it may readjust and go down or go up. I don't know. But home prices went up in October. Remember, home prices went up in October. Days on market went down. Inventory stayed the same. So I'm curious to see, because I remember saying in August, that we are in the cusp of a buyer's market. Are we no longer in that cusp of a buyer's market? Is a buyer's market no longer happening? Is it consolidating, moving a sideways price action? I'm very curious, because home prices it does look like it's starting to creep back up. And it might have to do with the fact that interest rates are going down. It might have to do with the fact that interest rates are going down and more buyers are entering into the market. Now, number of sales will kind of answer our question. The number of sales will answer that question. Interesting. The number of sales went down in October. The number of sales went down. Inventory was the same as usual. Days on market went down. Median home price went up, but the sales went down. I'm curious. This is something that I really cannot guess and understand why this is, considering the fact. And you know what? Actually, I take that back. I do kind of have an idea. It might have a lot to do with the fact that a lot of people's jobs are on shaky grounds, right? And sellers are still able to find buyers, but a lot of buyers are afraid of getting into the market, even though interest rates are going down. And it makes sense why sellers. See, that's the thing about the market. When we go back and think about the 2008 market crash, for example, and so many people are like, oh, this would have been a good time for me to buy a house. I wish I was born back then. I was an adult back then to buy a house back in 2010, because the houses were cheap. But there was a lot more that went to it, because the economy wasn't the best at the time. Could you even have been able to afford the house even though it was cheap? Right? So there are other factors that come into play. Like, yes, on paper, it's an ideal time to buy. Interest rates are lower. Home prices, you know what I'm saying? But for some reason, in October, home prices went up and the sales went down. But for some reason, and it makes sense because of the whole thing that's happening with the government right now that I talked about. People don't know if their jobs are going to be stable. A lot of people are being laid off. Okay, but I'm very curious to see what comes after this, especially we are on day 32 of the government shutdown. So I am expecting to see this number go up in November though. I am expecting to see, because our interest rates, the lowest it's been all year. I'm expecting to see it go up. I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but it's the lowest it's been all year. So I'm expecting to see this number go up in November. Okay, now if you're looking at the past 5 years in total, interestingly enough, obviously enough, right, home prices were in the thousands. I mean, home sales were in the thousands the last 3 years, or the first 3 years, 2020 to 2022, because interest rates were lower, homes were cheaper. It was extremely ideal time for people to buy a house at this time. But then it started to go down when interest rates were going up and all these things. Now we have a new administration in 2024, and it was a lot going on. Now in April, we do see in the thousands, which is interesting because it was the opposite in 2020, which I guess it makes sense, right? It makes sense, right? But we do see that April was a very interesting time period. And when we go and check in April had one of the highest interest rate, right? Though it did drop by, to 6.62, had one of the highest interest rates. So the market is always very questionable. It's always very interesting to see. And it's one of those things where you have to estimate and guess, okay, what kind of market are we in? But right now, I will say this, okay? With my clients, I have sellers and buyers that I'm working with right now. I will say this, right? While I'm working with my sellers, right, I'm able to see that people are willing to buy a house quickly if the house is priced right, which is obvious, right? Which is obvious. However, pricing the house right will get your home sold in this market. So it's not about people not buying homes or selling homes. People are buying every single day, right? It's not about that. How are you pricing your home? Because some people, their homes are sitting on the market for longer than usual because they're probably trying to get way more than the home is worth, or they're asking for the market value of the house, which in today's market, a lot of people want to get the best bang for their buck, right? And so they, pricing their home maybe $10,000 less than your competitors can get it sold quicker than if you were to list it at market value. Now, in terms of my buyers, I mean, there's so many people are afraid of getting into the market that the buyers that I have that I'm working with right now, they have so much leverage. They can negotiate, and people are willing to go down on price. They can take their time and not have to worry too much that this home is going to be taken off the market quicker. You know what I mean? So a lot of things, unless the house is priced right, so it's a very interesting time that we're in. I can't really tell you if we're in a buyer's or a seller's market. I feel like we are in that in-between cusp level. Sellers are willing to negotiate on prices. Buyers don't want to buy too much, or they don't want to spend too much, and they're afraid of their jobs. It's a very interesting market. So I can't really say for sure what I think that this market is going to be, but it's kind of interesting. I want to know what your thoughts are. I want to know what you think on what type of market we're in right now. Do you think we're in a buyer's market, or do you think we're in a seller's market? Do you think it's an ideal time to buy a house, or do you think it's an ideal time to sell a house? Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, tomorrow we're going to be reacting to a video. So thank you so much for watching. I love you. And remember, God loves you even more. Bye.